I hadn't built freedom. I mean, every decision ran through me. Every client relationship lived inside my head. Every system depended upon my presence to function. And I couldn't take a real vacation without my phone ringing. I couldn't step away without someone, or something catching on fire. Somewhere between childhood and now, someone handed you a set of rules about money or about success or faith and how the world works. And you never asked who wrote them. And some of them are costing you everything. And the ones doing the most damage, they're not even hiding. They're dressed up as your greatest achievements. Hey, welcome to the Real Jason Duncan Podcast. I am Jason Duncan. This is episode number 355. If you've been here before, you know that this show had a different name for 354 episodes. And during those 354 episodes, I called this show The Root of All Success. Now, if you're brand new here, welcome. I'm glad you found this. But either way, I need to tell you something before we go anywhere else into this episode. This show has changed. And not the reason that exists, not necessarily the questions that it's always been trying to ask, but the focus and the format and the level of honesty have all changed. And I want to take a few minutes here at the top of this episode to explain what changed and why, because I think that the reason I changed it matters. So for 354 episodes, this show focused on entrepreneurs. It focused on their stories. It focused on their strategies, their principles of success that helped them build real things. And those were good conversations. And I'm proud of those. And to those of you who are faithful listeners who've gone back and listened to all of them or been with me since the beginning, I'm thankful for that. But I'm proud of those episodes. But here's what happened. Somewhere along the way, in the middle of all that, I started noticing something that I couldn't stop seeing. And what I was seeing is that the most successful guests that I had, the ones with the biggest companies, the ones with the most money, the most recognition, a lot of them actually weren't free. I mean, they had built some impressive things, but those things were owning them completely. And what I've discovered is they were living in cages that they couldn't see because the cages were made of gold. And the conversations I kept having off mic were more valuable than anything we could have ever put on the record. I mean, guests would tell me what they actually believed about money, about the government. Boy, those were some great conversations about church, about their marriages. I mean, things that they had figured out the hard way, things that, frankly, most people never say out loud. And that is what this show is about now. No more success story parade, no more highlight reel of interviews where someone walks you through how they got to the top. This is just honest people from every walk of life sharing the lies that they believed for way too long and the truths that they finally found. And I renamed the show, I rebuilt the format, and I've recorded this episode to explain why. Episode number 355. So let me tell you, as we get started here, a little something about myself that most people don't really know the full version of. I was a pastor for 13 years. That was my first job, really career out of high school and college. And I loved that work. I believed in it completely and I gave everything I had to it. But then I started seeing some of the cracks and the lies about what I was doing that I really couldn't stomach anymore. And so I had to leave. And then, so I went and became a school teacher. I became a middle school history teacher. And it was different work, but it was the same basic instinct, help people grow, tell them the truth, point them towards something better. And I loved it. But in the spring of 2011, I lost that teaching job, and it was really no warning, no safety net. I mean, I had a wife and 2 kids at home. I had suddenly was looking down the barrel of not having an income in a few months. So I did what a lot of successful people do. I started a business, and not because I had a brilliant idea or even a clear plan of how I was going to execute this. I just started the business because my family needed to eat and nobody was going to hand me a paycheck. And you know what? Something the culture had been feeding me for years was whispering, like, this is your way out. Build your own thing, be your own boss, create your own freedom. And that was a lie. I didn't know it was a lie, of course. I mean, it looked like the truth. It felt like the truth. And for years, it performed like the truth. And by 2018, that business It was an LED lighting and electrical retrofit company, an electrical contracting company. We'd reached $1 million in EBITDA, $1 million in net profit. I made the Inc. 5000 list twice, and I was being recognized by Entrepreneur Magazine, the Nashville Business Journal. I was getting published in other magazines, and I had everything that the lie promised me. Well, from the outside, that's what it looked like. But on the inside, I was the business. I mean, every decision ran through me. Every client relationship lived inside my head. Every system depended upon my presence to function. And I couldn't take a real vacation without my phone ringing. I couldn't step away without someone, or something catching on fire. I hadn't built freedom. I'd built a job that paid really well, heck of a lot better than being a school teacher. I think my last year my teaching salary was like 38 grand. And, now we made $1 million in 1 year. But I'd built this job that paid well, but it never let me leave. And I had a business coach at the time. His name was BJ Howard. And he's the one who finally said out loud what needed to be said. 14 words that I'd never forgotten. He said, "The reason you want out is the same reason no one would want in." And I want you to take a moment with that. Think about what those 14 words mean. But the reason I wanted out, I wanted to sell the business. I wanted to get out of the weeds of running operations. He said, the reason I wanted out is the fact that the business couldn't run without me was the same reason that no buyer would ever want it, because it wasn't an asset. It was a dependency. And I was the product, and products like that don't scale, and they certainly don't sell. In 2019, a very painful business partnership dispute pulled me away from the business. Probably about 75% of my attention pulled away from the business, pulled away from the company. And the business that year lost nearly $1 million. I mean, that's a $2 million swing in 24 months, from $1 million in profit to $1 million in losses. And it wasn't because the market changed. It wasn't because the industry shifted. It was because the business was built on me. And the moment I couldn't hold it together, it fell apart. Now, what I did is I spent the next 18 months doing what at the time was the hardest professional work of my life. I was building real systems, developing real leadership, creating the infrastructure that would let the company function without me at the center of everything. And I got there. And eventually I handed over the daily operations to a third-party manager, and I stepped back, and the business kept running for a while. And then that manager destroyed the company, and it ultimately had to be shut down. And that's a whole nother story for another episode. I'm not going to get into that. And I tell you that not for sympathy. I tell you that because the full story matters. I finally did the work to get free, and then I watched what I built get destroyed anyway.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
I want to thank my sponsor, Dub. Dub is who makes this episode possible today. Dub is a video platform that you can use to send personalized videos in email or text message or on LinkedIn directly to your people that actually get read and responded to. You can try Dub for free and get 2 months at 50% off with my link. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub, and that's spelled D-U-B-B.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
And here's what that experience gave me that nothing else would have been able to give me. And that's the complete picture of what it actually costs, what this lie that I believed actually cost me. And what is the lie? Well, the lie is that building my own business will set me free. And that's one of the most widely believed lies in the world of entrepreneurship. It's in every motivational speech, every startup podcast, every quit your job and follow your dreams post that you've ever scrolled past. The culture sells it constantly, and people buy it because it looks like gold. And the gold is real. I mean, I want to be clear about that. Building something that's your own is genuinely powerful. I've started 14 companies. I've exited 5 of them. I'm about to exit a couple more. And the independence, the ownership, the sense of purpose that comes with it, those are real things. And I'm not here to tell you entrepreneurship is a mistake. That's not what I'm saying. But the lie embedded in the promise is this, that starting a business automatically delivers freedom, and it doesn't. What it delivers is a new set of responsibilities and a new boss. You wanted to become your own boss, but your new boss is usually the worst boss you've ever had. It's the boss who sends emails at 11 o'clock at night, the one who expects you to be available for every decision, the one who can't survive without you, so you can never actually leave. And instead of freedom, what you end up with is a cage that you designed yourself, one that that fits you perfectly because you built it around your own habits, your own blind spots, and your own version of what you think success was supposed to look like because you've been on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram too long. The gold, as we see it, was the opportunity, but the cage was the structure I built around it. And I was in that cage for years before I ever saw the bars. I couldn't see them. And I only saw them because someone cared enough to tell me the truth. 14 words I could not unhear. Now, most people, probably like you, don't ever get those 14 words. And they stay in the cage their entire career. They build bigger, more impressive cages. They collect more gold, and they call that success. Now, this show, the Real Jason Duncan Podcast, I want to introduce you to a concept that's going to come up in almost every conversation from now on this show. A golden cage. We're going to talk about this idea of a golden cage. A golden cage is any lie that looks attractive enough that you climb inside it willingly. So the gold, of course, that's what makes it appealing. But the cage is the truth underneath that. And the reason that golden cages are so dangerous is not that they're hard to spot from a distance. It's that from inside they don't look like anything like a cage. They look great. They look comfortable. They look like your best decisions. And people build these golden cages around their businesses, around their finances, around even their faith, around their marriages, around their beliefs about what a good life is supposed to look like. And some people spend their entire lives adding more gold to a cage that they have never once examined. And then they end up dying in there, surrounded by gold, wondering why they're not free. And they never felt free. So I need you to understand, though, this concept isn't limited to entrepreneurs. It's not limited to business. It's not limited to money. It applies anywhere. Anywhere a lie that has been dressed up well enough that someone stops questioning it and starts like defending it. And what makes it really hard to escape is that the more successful you are, the harder these lies are to see, because the evidence that you're in the cage is the same evidence you've been using to prove that you're free. I mean, things like revenue, recognition, lifestyle, all of that feels like proof that you got something right. And that's exactly what it felt like for me in 2018. I had $1 million in EBITDA, Inc. 5000 magazine features, more trapped than I'd ever been in my professional life. The gold was real, but the cage was real too. I just couldn't see the bars because I was so busy polishing the gold. Now, here's what I want you to carry out of this episode. So listen very carefully. You are living by rules that you never wrote, and the ones doing the most damage are the ones you're most certain about. Think about that. I mean, the beliefs that you're least likely to question are the ones that feel most obviously true. I mean, the ones that everyone around you also holds, by the way, the ones that have been reinforced so many times that questioning them feels like you're losing your grip on reality. Those are the ones that are most worth examining. Now, I need to be clear here. I'm not telling you that everything you believe is wrong. That's not what this is about. I'm not here to burn down your worldview or hand you a new ideology to replace the old one. What I am here to do is because I found out the hard way that some of what I was most certain about was the very thing that was costing me the most. And it goes back to things I learned in childhood, things I learned in high school, things I learned through relationships from my parents, learned in ministry. I mean, as I said earlier, part of my story, I started seeing lies around this idea of church and ministry I couldn't do. Like, these things were costing me a lot. And I suspect that some of the same things are true for you. And the question here is whether you're willing to look at them. And that's why this show exists, because every episode, we're going to look at a lie that somebody believed for far too long, and then the truth that they finally found. These aren't professionals. They're not academics. They're not people with the tidy theory about how the real world works. These are going to be real entrepreneurs, real investors, real parents, real pastors, real teachers, real doctors who got something wrong for a long time and then got it right, and who are willing to sit down across the microphone, across the camera, across the internet, and to say it out loud. So every episode moving forward is going to be someone who's done the hard work of questioning what they were told, and they're going to sit down and then tell you what they found out. So you don't have to wait as long as they did. And that's the part I think that really matters the most to me, is that waiting, because I waited years to find out that the business that I built it to set me free. I waited years to find out that it was a cage. And those are years I can't get back. And honestly, if someone had put the truth in front of me earlier, everything might have looked different. Honestly, this is the truth. This is not really part of the notes for my episode, but as I was preparing this, I actually got a little emotional at this point when I was writing these words, because, man, if I'd known the truth, would I have done what I did? I mean, maybe I wouldn't have earned as much money. Maybe I wouldn't have ever ended up in a magazine, but then again, maybe I would have. Maybe I'd have been better. I don't know, but I wished I didn't have to wait to learn it, because everything might have looked different. And now I don't know if I would have even listened, but at least I would have had the chance. And so this show, the Real Jason Duncan Podcast, exists for people like you who suspect that some of what they've been taught about money or business or faith and life is wrong. And you want permission to find out. And it's not that you need my permission, but you just might need to hear someone say it out loud. And that's okay. That it's okay to question the things that we were handed. The money stuff, the tax stuff, the way the financial system actually works, the things you were taught in church, the conventional wisdom about how to raise children, how to build a marriage, or how to find a life well lived. All of that's fair game here. And we're going to have guests that talk about all these things. Some of them I'm going to disagree with. They're going to bring a truth that they're going to bring a lie that I still believe. And we're going to have a disagreement, because I don't have all the answers. I don't. But because the questions I'm going to ask them are worth asking, because most people never ask them. This is going to be a conversation about the lies that look like gold and the truths hiding underneath them. And some of what you hear on this show is going to make immediate sense to you. You'll hear it go, yep, 100%, I'm with you, brother. Some of it will make you uncomfortable. And some of it, I'm going to be honest with you, is going to make you think the guest has completely lost their mind, or you're going to think I've lost my mind. And that's fine. This show doesn't tell you what to believe. It gives you permission to examine what you already believe. And that's the only agenda. So here's what I need from you. If you have a lie that you used to believe and a truth that you had to find out the hard way, I want to hear from you. I don't care what the category is. It could be politics, money, faith, parenting, taxes, financial system, how cars work, how the government works, how marriage works. If you believe something, I don't care what it is, for a long time and then found out it was wrong, and you're willing to talk about it honestly on this show, you might be exactly who this show needs next. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/podcast, and you can apply to be a guest on the show. That's therealjasonduncan.com/podcast. Now, I'm not looking for polished speakers. I'm not looking for professional pundits. I'm looking for real people who have done the actual work of questioning what they were handed and then came out the other side with something true. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode. That's the first episode of the new framework, episode number 355 here. And if today you saw a bar on your cage that you hadn't noticed before, I want you to send this episode to someone who needs to see theirs. The gold is the lie. As always, I'm your host, the Real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. Remember, we release new episodes every single Monday, so make sure you tune in. You can find all the show notes, everything from today's episode, and more at therealjasonduncan.com. If you want to follow Jason, just search The Real Jason Duncan on your favorite social media platform or your favorite AI platform. You'll find him there. We'll see you next time on the Real Jason Duncan Podcast.